received official confirmation from the Vatican this morning. In fact, here's the confirmation in my hand that Pope Francis will be attending the World Meeting of Families in Philadelphia in September of next year.
The breaking news about the Pope this morning. The Pope has officially announced he's coming to Philadelphia next September.
September 25th, to be exact.
Put it on your calendar. Pope Francis is coming to Philadelphia.
Now, the Pontiff visit is part of the World Meeting of Families set for next September.
Plans have been in the works for this trip for months, but it just now became official. This will be the Pope's first visit to the United States, and again, he's coming to Philadelphia. Pope Francis made the announcement in Rome during his opening remarks at a meeting sponsored by the Congregation for the Doctrine of the Faith.
Archbishop Chaput even says that he is overjoyed and he believes that the Pope's presence next year for the World Meeting of Families will electrify the gathering.
Breaking news from Pope Francis this morning announcing he will visit the United States. The historic trip will include a stop in Philadelphia.
And I beheld another beast coming up out of the earth, and he had two horns like a lamb, and he spake as a dragon.
Looking to absolve your sins? Well, the solution is right at your fingertips. The Vatican has announced Pope Francis will be offering forgiveness in 140 characters or less. Per tradition, Francis will offer plenary indulgences, that is, reductions on purgatory time, to participants at World Youth Day later this month. A Vatican official told Vatican Radio indulgences are linked to a theme that Pope Francis has spoken very frequently about since the moment of his election, that is to say, to the gift of God's mercy. About 2 million pilgrims are expected to head to Rio de Janeiro for the new pontiff's first trip abroad, hoping to shave off some time in limbo. But they're not the only ones. Any of his 7 million Twitter followers legitimately prevented from attending will have the same opportunities. Francis has extended the rites and pious exercises of the event to those following it on TV, radio, and through social media.
The Pope has rewritten the Church's historically harsh attitude toward non-believers. The Pope said, "This commandment for everyone to do good, I think, is a beautiful path toward peace. If we each, doing our own part, if we do good to others, if we meet there, doing good, and we go slowly, gently, little by little, we will make that culture of encounter. We need that so much. We must meet one another doing good."
Good news for all you atheists out there. Jesus is still going to redeem you. During his homily at Wednesday Mass, Pope Francis emphasized the importance of doing good as a principle that unites all humanity. In his sermon, he said, "The Lord has redeemed all of us with the blood of Christ, all of us, not just Catholics, everyone, even the atheists, everyone."
I'm fairly exhilarated that the Pope is taking a stand that science is science, religion is religion, and you can have religion and still understand science, that it's important that people understand evolution. You can have a complete understanding of evolution and still accept God.
Pope said today that God is not a magician with a magic wand. Evolution and the Big Bang Theory are real.
The Pope said, quote, "When we read about creation in Genesis, we risk imagining God as a magician with a magic wand able to make everything, but that is not so." Now, the Pope added he created beings and allowed them to develop according to the internal laws that he gave to each one, so they were able to develop and to arrive at their fullness of being. And Pope Francis made these comments at the Vatican. He says this is all part of God's plan.
At a certain point, I've just concluded that for me personally, it is important for me to go ahead and affirm that I think same-sex couples should be able to get married.
Lesbian, bisexual, transgender, every single American deserves to be treated equally in the eyes of the law and in the eyes of our society. It's a pretty simple proposition. I vowed to keep up the fight against the so-called Defense of Marriage Act. There's a bill to repeal this discriminatory law in Congress. And I want to see that passed. But until we reach that day, my administration is no longer defending DOMA in the courts. I believe the law runs counter to the Constitution, and it's time for it to end once and for all. It should join Don't Ask, Don't Tell in the history books.
And he shall speak great words against the Most High, and shall wear out the saints of the Most High, and think to change times and laws. And they shall be given into his hand until a time and times and the dividing of time.
The Supreme Court has handed down a decision on gay marriage, on the Defense of Marriage Act. I want to go right to ABC's Terry Moran at the court. Terry?
All right, Georgia, I'm waiting for the actual opinion itself, but our excellent colleagues inside have told us that that Defense of Marriage Act, which for federal law defined marriage as the union of one man, one woman only, denied all federal benefits to gay couples, that has been ruled unconstitutional.
In San Francisco, the party went on all night long. There was dancing in the streets to mark a momentous victory. California's long-fought battle for gay marriage now over. In New York, there were cheers at the historic Stonewall Inn, a sweeping win for gay rights from the nation's highest court, and now orders from the highest offices. President Obama directing his cabinet to ensure federal benefits are extended to married gay couples. California's governor ordering all counties in the Golden State to allow same-sex weddings.
President Obama called the Defense of Marriage plaintiff Edith Windsor from Air Force One on his way to Africa. He also said, quote, "This was discrimination enshrined in law. It treated loving, committed gay and lesbian couples as a separate and lesser class of people. The Supreme Court has righted that wrong, and our country is better off for it."
In an unprecedented show of openness to the real lives of many Catholics today, a Vatican document released Monday said gays should be accepted, and there are positive aspects to a couple living together without being married.
Homosexuals have gifts and qualities to offer the Christian community. Are we capable of welcoming these people, guaranteeing to them a fraternal space in our communities?
We must respect the dignity of every person. And the fact to be homosexual doesn't mean that this dignity must be not recognized and promoted.
For heterosexuals, the bishop said civil weddings and cohabitation should be accepted with the aim of helping the couple commit eventually to a church wedding. Bishops clearly took into account the views of Pope Francis, who has urged a new tone of welcome for the church.
The question is this an example of Pope Francis trying to take the church in new directions, open it up, without changing or assaulting doctrine?
Yeah, that's a good way to put it, Charlie. I'd say you're on to something. Pope Francis has the challenge that any successor of St. Peter, any pope would have, namely how to be true to the timeless, unchanging teaching of the church, but yet trying to find creative, fresh, invigorating ways to present it. Pope Francis has captured the imagination of the world in trying to do that, and this would be a good example. Yeah, I think you're onto something. I don't think, I note a remarkable unanimity and enthusiastic backing of the Holy Father's attempt to present the teaching of the church in a fresh, exciting, enchanting new way. There's unanimity there, Charlie.
Cardinal, this report, which was written by a committee handpicked by Pope Francis, I've read through it. It's 11 pages, and I want to go specifically to the parts that have become so controversial. There is a section that says, welcoming homosexual persons, and it says this: homosexuals have gifts and qualities to offer the Christian community.
On the eve of the next Supreme Court term, the annual Red Mass held in Washington today. The Catholic service is held to bless those responsible for the administration of justice. It dates back to the Middle Ages. It's called the Red Mass because of the color of the garment once worn by judges. Supreme Court members have been attending the Red Mass here in Washington for decades.
When this week began, same-sex marriage was legal in 19 states. Now, because of the Supreme Court's decision not to review the ruling of several appeals courts, same-sex marriage may soon be legal in 35 states.
There is news from the Vatican tonight, widely described today as something of an earthquake for the Catholic Church. It involves a global gathering of bishops, including the Pope, held behind closed doors. and what could be a dramatic shift in the church's thinking on the acceptance of gays, and separately, how to minister to divorced and remarried Catholics.
The Francis effect and his vision of a more inclusive church embraced today by the Catholic bishops. In a statement one observer describes as the church thinking out loud, the bishops take a new merciful tone to disaffected Catholics, writing homosexuals have gifts and qualities to offer to the Christian communities. Last year, famously saying about a gay person,
Chi sono io per giudicarla?
Who am I to judge?
Ms. Rivers, how are you? You made a ton of news officiating the wedding in New York yesterday. Is this like a new cottage career move for you?
I'm so excited.
Okay.
And I should do very well because I don't charge.
And do you think that the country will see the United States will see the first gay president or the first woman president?
We already have it with Obama, so let's just calm down.
Got it.
You know Michelle is a trans.
I'm sorry, she's a what?
A transgender. We all know.
Oh my gosh.
Oh gosh. It's okay.
Secretary Panetta, thank you for your introduction and for your extraordinary leadership. To members of Congress, Vice President Biden, members of the Joint Chiefs, service secretaries, distinguished guests, and men and women of the finest military in the world. And most of all, Admiral Mullen, Deborah, Michael and I also want to acknowledge your son Jack, who's deployed today. All of you have performed extraordinary service to our country.
Hi, Tara.
Oh, hi, Joan.
What's up?
Well, you didn't respond to me, or Anne Hathaway, or Sarah Jessica Parker for the ALS Ice Bucket Challenge. So I thought I'd come here and do it myself.
Okay, fine, whatever. Do it. Just do it. Just do it. Okay. Now give me Anne Hathaway. Let's just get the whole damn thing over with.
There
This
you
is
go.
for Anne Hathaway, fine. Who's next? Who's next?
Sarah Jessica Parker,
Sarah
this is for
Jessica
you.
Parker. Fine. Okay, you all happy?
Joan.
Everybody happy?
And turning now to a health crisis for one of America's most iconic and prolific comedians, Joan Rivers rushed to a Manhattan hospital during a procedure at an outpatient clinic. She is now listed in critical condition.
There is breaking news now on Fox News Channel. I'm Shepard Smith at the Fox News deck in New York. The comedic legend Joan Rivers has died. A statement from her daughter was released just a short time ago, in fact, over the last minute. And it reads from her daughter, "It is with great sadness that I announce the death of my mother, Joan Rivers. She passed peacefully at 1:17 p.m., that's Eastern Time, surrounded by family and close friends."
And he exerciseth all the power of the first beast before him, and causeth the earth and them that dwell therein to worship the first beast, whose deadly wound was healed.
From Scripture, we learn of the miracle of restoration. You who have made me see many troubles and calamities will revive me again. From the depths of the earth, you will bring me up again. You will increase my greatness and comfort me again.
So looking at the meeting today, looking at the rapport between the president and the Pope, they seem to be getting along very well. Is this the beginning of a long friendship?
Well, I hope so, and I would expect that both of them hope so as well. They were all smiles afterwards, and the Pope said, I really feel that you should feel at home here. So I would think it's the start of a good relationship.
Good evening. Today I authorized 2 operations in Iraq. Targeted airstrikes to protect our American personnel, and a humanitarian effort to help save thousands of Iraqi civilians who are trapped on a mountain without food and water and facing almost certain death.
The Vatican, in a rare move, says that it will support the use of airstrikes against ISIS militants, and that breaks a long-standing position of disapproving war. They released this statement: military action might be necessary, and, quote,
Intervention now, before it is too late.
My day started with the great honor of meeting His Holiness Pope Francis. And like people around the world, I've been incredibly moved by his compassion, his message of inclusion. I was grateful to have the opportunity to speak with him about the responsibilities that we all share to care for the least of these, the poor, the excluded. I invited and urged him to come visit the United States, telling him that people would be overjoyed to see him.
Pope Francis this morning announced he'll make his first trip to the United States as head of the Catholic Church. The Pope said he will attend the World Meeting of Families in Philadelphia next September. More than 1 million people are expected to attend. The trip could also include a stop in New York City, but plans have not yet been finalized.
I bambini hanno il diritto di crescere in una famiglia, con un papà e una mamma, capaci di creare un ambiente idoneo al loro sviluppo e alla loro maturazione affettiva. Mi piace confermare che, a Dio piacendo, nel settembre del 2015 mi recherò in Filadelfia. Per l'8º incontro mondiale delle famiglie.
The Pope is coming to Philadelphia. I teased the First Lady that First Lady of Pennsylvania when it was mentioned that, of course, our Archbishop, our great leader, could not be with us this morning. I knew that he was in Rome, and it's just, you know, it's a timing thing. It's really, really hard to get back to Philadelphia so quickly from Rome. But please give another huge round of applause to our great Archbishop, Archbishop Charles Chaput.
We begin this morning with breaking news out of the Vatican. Pope Francis has officially announced his attendance at the World Meeting of Families in Philadelphia in 2015.
This will be the largest event in the city's modern history. Philadelphia, the big city for big events, and we could not be more excited.
We often speak of our visit to Rome with the Philadelphia delegation last March. It was there that the governor had the honor of inviting the Pope to Philadelphia, and the Holy Father answered our invitation by whispering 3 words in Tom's ear: I will come.
In 1979, a vigorous Pope John Paul II commanded the Benjamin Franklin Parkway with a mass that drew 1 million people. The cathedral was the backdrop to a dramatic altar with a soaring cross. Pope Francis will arrive in Philadelphia more than 20 years older than his predecessor, and with an electricity that's captivating the world, with his call for mercy and caring for the poor. Paying his own bills after his election, living in simpler quarters instead of the apostolic palace, and calling on his bishops to live more humbly, have won support across the world. As the first pope from Latin America elected in March 2013, Francis's appeal to the Hispanic Catholic community is significant. It's the fastest growing community in the church, even dominating the American Catholic Church.
The World Meeting of Families, Philadelphia 2015, will take place from September 22nd until September 27th of 2015. Pope Francis is expected to be here toward the end of the week. The first portion of the week is a Congress at the Pennsylvania Convention Center, and then at the end of the week there are 2 really wonderful big events in Philadelphia, both of which will take place on the Ben Franklin Parkway. One will take place on Saturday, September 26th, and that is the Festival of Families. It will take place right in front of the Philadelphia Art Museum on the Parkway. And that is it's not a mass, it's not a prayer service, but it's a prayerful cultural celebration. Song, dance, world-class entertainment. And then overnight, the stage becomes an altar. And the Ben Franklin Parkway will be the setting for Pope Francis Mass. And that will take place on Sunday, September 27th. And that is how the World Meeting of Families will close with Pope Francis.
Well, excellent. And again, congratulations, Donna.
It's very difficult to put in words. I can say ecstatic, I can say joyful, thrill, all the above. But quite frankly, whatever words I use, it's probably an understatement. This is magnificent. This man has galvanized the whole world. I have had as many non-Catholic friends of mine talk to me about this Pope, about Pope Francis, and the fact that he talks about, from the very beginning of his papacy, love, respect for one another, the dignity of people. He doesn't make any distinctions one to the other in terms of faith tradition. He, like me, respects all faith tradition. This is going to be wonderful for the world.
Pope Francis making his first trip to the U.S. The Vatican announcing the leader of the world's Catholics will visit Philadelphia next September. He is also expected to make stops in Washington, D.C. and New York. Chief religion correspondent Lauren Green is live in our New York City newsroom with more details. Hi, Lauren.
Hey, Shannon. Well, it's been long speculated that Pope Francis would make a pilgrimage to the United States, but now Francis himself confirmed he will visit. The popular pontiff announced this morning in Rome that he will travel to the United States in September. And the focus will be in Philadelphia for the World Meeting of Families. It's a once every 3-year massive gathering of Catholic families being held on U.S. soil for the first time ever. Philadelphia Archbishop Charles Chaput spoke to press in Rome after the announcement.
Applauded the loudest because we're very, very grateful for this opportunity. We're doing a lot of planning for the World Meeting of Families. There's great enthusiasm, but I think 90% of that enthusiasm is based on the fact that the Holy Father is going to join us.
Now, Philadelphia Mayor Michael Nutter said it will be the largest event in the city's modern-day history.
Our city will continue to work with and support the World Meeting of Families and the Philadelphia 2015 team with our extensive experience and knowledge of hosting big events safely and successfully.
Now, the Vatican has not released an exact itinerary yet, but it's expected the Pope will also go to D.C. Last spring, House Speaker John Boehner and Minority Leader Nancy Pelosi formally invited the pontiff to address a joint session of Congress. Now, if that happens, insiders say it would be unprecedented. Francis would be the first religious leader that serves as a head of state ever to do so. Now, also, it's expected that Pope Francis will travel to New York City and deliver a speech to the United Nations to mark its 70th anniversary. Shannon?
All right, Lauren, thank you so much.
The Holy Father is visiting the city of brotherly love.
Mi recherò in Filadelfia.
Pope Francis confirmed he'll be in Philadelphia for the World Meeting of Families in September.
The Holy Father will celebrate Mass again on the Ben Franklin Parkway in front of the Art Museum. And we've talked about some of the numbers, and we expect that they will be staggering.
Organizers say they're planning on crowds of at least 2 million people to line the boulevard leading to the Philadelphia Museum of Art, where, of course, Rocky Balboa famously charged up the steps. Wherever Francis goes, massive crowds and surprises have followed. He often shuns personal safety to be closer to people, and he is not afraid to go off script, such as in May. He bolted from the Pope-mobile to say a prayer at the wall dividing Israel and the West Bank, causing something of an international scene. While liberals and moderates have welcomed this new Pope's message on hot-button social issues, conservatives point out the Church's teaching remains unchanged. The Pope's announcement today came during an interfaith conference at the Vatican on traditional marriage. The U.S. trip will focus on similar themes.
We know as the family's under attack, and he's coming not to rally troops to become crusaders, but he's coming to encourage those who are in marriage and who feel assailed from all sides. Hey, I'm here to support you. He's not coming to condemn those who have failed, to condemn those who are living in other unions or relationships that are not traditional marriage. He's coming to give people hope.
The Vatican says the details and other possible stops for this trip are still being hammered out.
There is always the element of what I call the Franciscan surprise, and I think we have to be open to that. Many things are at play.
Another possible step for the Pope may be the UN General Assembly, just up I-95 in New York. There, Archbishop Cardinal Timothy Dolan has been publicly angling for a Big Apple papal visit. It just so happens the trip will coincide with the annual meeting of world leaders. But the Philly visit will be a big boon for the Latino Catholics who have propelled the church's growth in the U.S.
I think he brings something to the table as a Latin American Pope that others may not have brought.
Francis has made immigration and border issues a key part of his papacy. All that makes many observers wonder if Francis will travel to the U.S.-Mexican border, as key American bishops did earlier this year, where they celebrated Mass through the border fence. But for now, all eyes on Philly.